is Chels from Blueberry Funded. Today I'm going to be doing another market breakdown for this week. So again, the first thing that I'm going to do is check my economic calendar just to make sure I know what days are safest and best for me to trade this week. Now, just keep in mind, guys, because there is a US government shutdown, some scheduled economic data may not be published on time or even happen. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So today, Monday, October 6th, there is no red folder or high impact news. So we are good and safe to trade for the rest of New York. Going into the next session, Tuesday, there is no red folder, high impact news. So we're good to trade there. Wednesday, there is FOMC minutes. Thursday, Powell does speak, and then going into Friday, there is a report. There's something called the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index report that is apparently red folder and high impact news as well. And that's going to be at 7 a.m. US time. Okay, so other than that, the beginning of the week seems pretty good to be trading. And just remember, if you do trade any high impact red folder news, just be sure to be cautious within the markets when you are doing that. Now, heading into what we see right here on GBPUSD. So I will say, if you guys remember my market breakdown from last week on GBPUSD, this pretty much played out to the T, right? I was looking for this first internal break of this swing high, which we had gotten. So we do have a break of structure here from this first internal high. And this break of structure then pushed up. We do have a reaction around 1.35200, and we did get a downwards reaction here, but I don't believe it is strong enough to continue breaking lows. So I do see GBPUSD still pushing up to at least the targets that we had set here, which was around 1.36200 to 1.36000. Okay, and this is going to be on the higher time frame, right? Like I mentioned last week, as soon as we had this draw here on the 4-hour that then created our low, I liked how this reaction happened, and we did have that first internal break because this shows me a potential shift in structure. Now it seems like we are pushing down just for a little bit of a retest, so price may push lower just to take these equal lows out here so we can get another retest, maybe back into 1.34000. Fill that price in one more time before we continue bullish, right? Because as price pushed down here, we are creating some sort of liquidity buildup on the opposite end. And I'm always looking for buildups of liquidity pools that look just like this, right? For me, I would consider this some sort of trend line liquidity, right? And so a lot of traders that do trend lines as well are looking for positions. More than likely, just the amount of touches here, a lot of people that do trade trend lines are more than likely in sells on GBPUSD. Now, GBPUSD could also go bearish if this reaction to this high here at 1.35000 was strong enough, but all in all, I don't like seeing these wicks, especially on the higher time frame. I do believe that wicks like this will eventually get filled. It's just a matter of time, right? And just based off structure here alone, again, we have that first internal break here, which then grabbed that liquidity. Again, just pushing down here for a minor pullback. I believe that is just a retracement before we continue bullish, right? At least up until this POI, that's where I would likely to see a reaction at, okay? So still, the bias is going to be the same for GBPUSD. We might see some bears in, and towards the ending of the week, we might start pushing bullish, but who really knows, depending on how FOMC goes, or even if that ends up happening, right? So that is my analysis on GBPUSD. Want to go to US 30 here. US 30 again, still pushing for all-time highs. Now, I was looking at this potential area, right, to continue bullish, and this would have been a lower time frame break here, right? So I had marked this area to see if price was going to hold around 46,750. This area was kind of moving sideways a little bit. We had a little bit of a reaction, but you see his price was not strong enough to continue to break highs. And so we had this huge break to the downside here, right? So this then invalidated that trend for bullish. And we are currently breaking another internal low here. So it seems like US 30 is really pushing right now, right? I mean, it is New York, right? It is about 8, 9, 10 a.m. on Eastern Standard Time, which is typically where that opening move happens for New York. So we have a nice push to the downside here again. This actually confirms again another potential shift in market structure, which I am paying attention to. Okay, so this looks nice here. I'm going to see what's happening on the daily time frame. Yeah. So the daily looks good. Again, depending on how we close at market close is going to factor in long-term bias here, right? So on the daily, we had a nice reaction here around 46,000 area. So long term wise, obviously, I won't be in on sells for US 30 unless we break this daily low. That's the only time we are shifting long term or potentially going lower for shorts, okay? But all in all, I would say US 30 could come into this area. This would be the first target here around 46,000, around 300, 46,300 area. And we could even fill in back at this price at 46,000 here, right? Because when we do look at the line chart, it does not look like that price has been filled here. And the line chart is a confluence that I do like to use a lot when it comes to just confirming my bias and confirming that the wicks will be filled in over time. So that's what I'm looking at, just two targets here on around 46,300 into 46,000. Okay. And again, we have really strong selling pressure right here. We have a bearish engulfing candle. As long as this low and this candle closes and stays below this previous daily low, then I would say that we could continue to look for shorts going into the new trading session, potentially Asian going into London, right? So that is what I'm looking at on US 30. I'm not super interested, obviously, with trading it right now. I more so trade mainly gold. So we are going to be looking at gold right now. Again, last night during gold Asian session, gold continued to break all-time highs, right? So we're still pushing bullish on gold, which is super, super crazy, right? Again, looking at this area here on the 4 hour, we had a nice POI reaction around 38.20, and gold has yet to top off, right? So in this sense, when it comes to trading all-time highs, the key is really just staying with the trend, right? If you see any counter trend trades, that is fine. I am a scalper, so I tend to counter trend trade a lot, but we have to be super cautious, especially with gold. Because it is very risky to take shorts right now, right? I would never take shorts unless I saw an internal break of structure in the opposite direction. And even if I did see that on the lower time frame, again, I'm getting out at my first target, right? I'm not holding these positions because I know long term we are overall bullish. Okay. So the best thing to understand too is when we're pushing with all time highs, we're never going to have a huge flush out where price just corrects hugely unless there is some news events that will happen. I mean, that happens that will make that push to the downside, flushing out all the previous orders. But all in all, if we are still pushing um, bullish and very, very strong, then you need to be paying attention to current and recent market structure and price action. That's typically where gold will usually draw back into before continuing to break highs, right? I still see gold obviously continuing to break highs. I actually believe that we could get up to 4,000 here, right? I don't know if there would be a correction before we get to 4,000, but that's what I'm kind of looking at. We are at a key level right here around 39.50. That is a pretty key and psychological level. So we can see that price actually started to struggle within this area, the opening of London last night. So we see that price started to struggle kind of right here, right? Price highs are actually being tested right now. So we're going to see if this ends up holding. I mean, we did sweep this from the previous session. So I'll go ahead and mark that as well. Let's see. We'll be on the higher time frame here. So I will go ahead and mark this. We already have this draw, right? And so this draw alone tells me that we could have short-term shorts to target back into this next level or this POI area that is of interest, which is around 39.38 to 39.36. Okay, so we could have this draw here, potential short-term pullback into this previous structure to continue bullish, right? So it could look something like this. Again, staying flexible with what the trend is. I'm not trying to marry a bias here, but if price gives us this, then that is what we'll be looking at. Sorry. Yeah, we'll be looking at if price wants to trade back into this area, have a nice reaction here, bottom out, and continue to break highs. We could do that, or price could just continue high to the 4,000s before we get any sort of pullback. But if there was a pullback in place, this would be something very short term that I'm looking at. Could potentially happen during market open going into London, and then bullish into New York. So we'll definitely see what happens there. We could even trade short term after this strong liquidity. Again, don't know how this candle will close here. There is a minute and 40 seconds, but if we do start seeing some internal breaks on the lower time frame, and that is anything from the 5 down to the 1, and we start getting that retracement back in here, we could even tap into this imbalance here before we start seeing bullish pushes again. So again, our lows are holding, right? Anytime price comes in here and we think we're breaking lows, we're just grabbing liquidity, right? We're just rating liquidity pools at this point, but we're always respecting swing lows. Okay, we're always respecting the lows here. No lows have been broken, so for me, still very, very bullish until one of these lows here get rated, and depending if they get rated with volume to the downside. So that is what I'm looking at on gold. Other than that, guys, I hope you guys have a great trading week, and I will catch you guys next week for my market breakdown.